about a young person doing some small farming at the back of the yard. You know, Africa, as it stands today, about 60% of arable land is here in Africa. Yet Africa is the most starving continent. And we've got this sun, which we need to grow our seeds and all these things. But I think we just lost it. We are thinking for survival, we need to come up with this sophisticated business idea, which it has been, of course, to some point we can blame what has happened in the past, because we just identified with these people who came here looking fancy and all that, with a system which it did not really speak to us. We had to learn that system. And along the way, it just confused us. Because I can tell you, you go to Europe, those guys there, it is always snowing, but yet they never go hungry to sleep. They establish these things called greenhouse gases in order to create the same natural conditions which you are having here in order to grow their crops. Yet, we think that in order for us to get a job, we need to be employed in the mines, in the, the likes of those things. But if you go back, before they came, our people, they were surviving without those things. But then, what has happened along the way? And again, as young people, as my brother has touched on on another issue of saying that Ubuntu of trying to uplift each other, it has degenerated. And when you look at the part of it, is the one which is actually destroying us from the top, going all the way down. Because if you can look, even in government itself, it's no longer about policies and all those things. It's about the loyalty to an individual. And then the young people at the townships, they are looking. I mean, the land in this country, it's still a big issue. And if there's an open space there, no one is doing anything on it. But you go there, you start putting a fence, trying to make some small means. Someone will just come and say, this is my land. You need to pay for it. And that person is not even utilizing that particular land. And that's why we are saying, I mean, it's funny enough. I think as young people, we do not wish to get to a point where we are like what has happened in North Africa with the Arab, is it the Arab Spring or something like that, where young people just got fed up with their government, and then they started protesting and all that. But the rhetorics which we make as we are sitting somewhere at the university or at the street corner and all those things, on the social media as well, if we were implementing those things into action, I think our government, for some reason, they were going to listen. But now, another danger which we are also facing, the very same young people who, when we are sitting like this, or maybe at student politics, they are busy saying, yeah, you see, if I can get into that particular organization, I'm going to change it and all these things. Before they go into that particular organization, they are talking all those things. But once they get there, they get absorbed. The very same way our current leaders got absorbed into the capitalist system we are having currently today. I mean, what kind of a leader is going to speak for the masses when he's busy thinking about the profits which he has to make in a particular sector? What kind of a leader of a communist party, who is also a minister of higher education, fails to give young people money to go to school, but he manages to buy a 1 million Mercedes Benz? I mean, what does that say to the young people sitting at Soweto being expelled from vets because he couldn't afford to get into that institution? Basically, that person becomes vulnerable. And they tend to alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and all these kind of things. Hence, we are busy attracting all these foreign nationals, which when they come here, they take advantage of that. And because our public servants themselves, they also form part of that particular whatever the group. So now I think we really need to self-introspect ourselves as individuals. I know, of course, we need to survive. We need the economics and the money and all those things. But I think the wealth of this country, it is enough for all of us. But we just have greedy people who just want everything for themselves. I mean, it's even degenerating into the young, into the kids, into the kids of these people who are busy dealing with corruption. I mean, we have been faced with the triple challenges, that your poverty, your unemployment, and your inequality. But there is this plus one of corruption. And the danger about it, failure to deal with it, all these other three, you're not going to deal with it, with them. And I mean, I was checking somewhere that we have, like, in this country as it stands, about 2.7 or 2.5 trillion worth of mineral resources beneath our soil. And when you look at a document which some people call the Bible of our democracy, it really states that those minerals need to be like, it must go to the people. But now what is happening is our leaders sold their souls to the capitalist system. Yes. Now they can't get out of it, and so I don't wish that we should go into a revolution. We all start afresh, but with the way things are going, people are just getting marginalized. They feel like they are being like forgotten, just so to say. It's like being a minister or whatever. It's like a celebrity these days, whereby I mean, of course, I don't know where the system comes from, where in our parliament there has to be a red carpet wall down there for our ministers to go in. For what?
No, look. No, but like with wealth, né? With wealth, you are told you're being told that you need to be at least have over 500,000 randelas for you to be half a millionaire.
No,
but now richness is the one thing that you can claim. I mean, can you not buy leading, or can you not buy, or
I'm tempted to dismiss or to perhaps differ.
All right.
Maybe not dismiss, but to differ.
Yes.
In principle,
okay,
with the view that we can't really define freedom. No. We can't really define freedom without including material. I think there's no way we can define our freedom in South Africa without speaking to material.
Can I quickly interject with you on that?
Yeah.
I know of a tribe in Botswana, borderline Botswana, the Khoisan, who don't care about being
Are they hungry?
They are not hungry.
Yes.
That's the point. The point
they are not starving.
Yeah. Now look, I want to comment that I want to, perhaps if you would have allowed me to continue.
Continue,
and
my
I'll
brother.
tell you why I want to differ with, and I'm saying in the context of South Africa and
Yes.
the challenges that which we're facing today.
Yes.
We need to understand why materials are so, perhaps so important in our conditions today. It's not because it's nice to have material and that's it.
Yes,
Look, I want to come back to the same point that I raised earlier on, that as we look at these issues, we need not to look at these issues at face value and just say, yes, material, or people, they love things, and that's it. Or people, they love fancy cars, they love label clothes and so forth,
Yes.
and that's it. But we need to understand what informs that. Look, we're living in a capitalist system, and we need to understand that system itself in terms of how it operates. Now, that system in its nature, it requires material. It says if you live in that system, for you to survive, you must have material. Now, I made this point earlier on. I said the reason why we are where we are today, and why we are fighting for economic freedom, why we are saying it's important for us to get economic freedom, it's primarily, in principle, what we're fighting for, it's survival. And we can't survive without material. So we need material to survive. Now, if you're going to go back and refer to the example that we're given of the Khoisan, we must look at the system, perhaps the setup of their system where they live. Indeed, you'll be correct when you say material means nothing to them. But you can never disassociate the point that, for instance, they're not starving. That's why material doesn't mean anything to them. But in South Africa, today, if you don't have material, you will starve. So do you understand? If we have a way of addressing this starvation, just to pull one of the challenge that we have, if we have one way of dealing with starvation, people won't starve. Material, we would have dealt with one way of material, or one way of what makes material to be important. So I'm saying we need to understand in that context the primary reason why material is so important today. Let's not look at it at face value, because when I'm saying we look at it at face value, what I mean is we look at material and say, yeah, our problem is that we love material. We just love material. We love bragging. We love designer clothes. We love cars and so forth and so on. But that's not really the reason why material is so important. That's what we see at face value. Because if somebody's driving a nice car outside there, somebody stays in Sentin, somebody can go to any restaurant he wants to go to, dresses the way he wants to, at face value, we think that's what makes that person happy. And at face value, yes, it looks like that's what makes the person happy. But that's not what makes the person happy. What really makes the person happy about that which he has is because he can survive. That's the ultimate reason. And that's why we need this material, because we need to survive.
Well, okay.
So I'm saying when we talk of freedom in South Africa, still in the setup that which we have now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to get to the part whether should we have a capitalist system or a socialist system or so forth and so on. But I'm saying, in the context of the system that we have is capitalism. That's the reason why I'm saying you can't argue freedom without speaking material. Because the system itself, it says to you, for you to be able to survive in this system, you have to have material.
Yeah.
So it's a means of survival. It's not just a question of what I have and what you have. It's a means of survival. That's just my point around that. So that's why I'm saying I want to differ with the point or the notion that seeks to suggest that you can define freedom in South Africa without speaking material.
You can't.
You can't disassociate the two.
The other thing about that, then fine, point taken. It is very expensive. Then your definition of freedom in South Africa is very expensive, and this we see in every street corner, in every township. The poor people are trying. The poor blacks are trying to survive, and surviving is living in Sandton. Surviving is living in Honeydew. Is moving out of the township. We can't move out of the township. Now, what we need to introduce is a sense of contentness, again, a sense of pride. Because now, that person who's driving around in the fancy car is not happy, we have established that, but he's happy that he's surviving, right? And it's not even, you don't have to record me actually. Maybe it's not even, my voice is going to work. He's surviving, right? But now you have to understand that this survival then again might be a bit more ambiguous than it is on the sense of you need to be able to pay rent and keep up with the electricity bills and whatnot. It's not that the Khoi, because they don't know of any material things, they are happy or they are living, but because they themselves are not in an environment that is conducive of skyscrapers and
that requires the material to survive.
But now, what they are rich though with the land, with the hunt, with the family and the tradition. Now, that's the problem. One of this expensive freedom is not ours. This idea of freedom, this especially at this price of e-tolls, of tax, so much tax, and of cigarettes and Woolworths food and all these organic foods that you get manufactured from outside the country, even, mind you, sitting on the resource, being mined here and processed at a later stage, is because we do not know the pride, or we do not think that we can live on our own without the private sector.
Look,
I fully agree which you've just said in terms of the definition of being rich and all that. As I've said before, in the African context, being rich, it had nothing to do with cars, designer labels and all those kind of things. We had our own kind of freedom, owning cows, producing this much of meals from your farm and wherever. But now, there's a system which was imposed on us, which is this capitalist system which we are having. And unfortunately, with this system, you have your bourgeoisie and your proletariat. And this kind of a system, it's a pyramid kind of a system, where you've got few at the top, very, very rich. As in the case of South Africa, they are the white. And you go to the bottom of the pyramid, you've got the majority, which are the blacks. And then this system, for you to survive, you need to adjust and adapt to it. Otherwise, you are not going to survive. It is impossible. In fact, in the whole world now, that's how the world is being engineered or constructed. It is a system which is here to stay. And I must say that at some point in this pursuit of this freedom, we lost our definition of our own richness and all those things. Hence, even at the some of the infrastructural development which we see happening in our country, it is really not necessary. But because they came with this system, whereby in Europe or in the States or wherever, there is a train which moves very fast and makes things very easy. But that thing is very expensive. It is not addressing the challenges which the majority is facing. Because for you to be able to be on that train, you need money. But people don't have that money. So it's a system which still is saving the people at the top.
Yes.
Hence, we have realized for us to be able to get absorbed in the system, this is the kind of a struggle which we need to follow. And you know, the level of inequality in this country is very high. And when you look, even the NDP, the policy which is the 2030 year plan, it is not actually addressing on how it's going to be dealing with issues. What it does, it tells us where we come from, where we are, where we need to be, but not how we are going to get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, for 20 years, it has the gap, it has been expanding. And if we don't change things, still it is going to be expanding. And you know, and I think middle class, as much as we can blame our government, middle class also we are selling out in this country, because you know that the things which we discuss, the comments we make when we are watching TV, parliamentary channel there, they are very key. And the educated ones, you know, some people, they think they are too educated for politics. You know what, politics are dirty and all those kind of things. It is fine. People who are not educated are going to go there and make policies which affect us. Hence,
our education.
Yes. Hence, if you go to student politics level, you find that out of the whole university, those who are interested in student politics, only 10%. And you ask them, why are you guys not interested in these things? No, I'm going to fail. They're going to take too much of my time. This and all that. Come January, the very same people whom did not want to fail because of politics want that 10% to help them get registered. Equally, the majority of us, 48% of the population voted in the last year's election. Hence, we are the most people who complain a lot about the policies and all these things which government adopts. And you ask yourself, what do you want them to do? They ask you to vote for the one which you think is going to talk to you best. You refused. Of course, then they discuss, there has to be a lead. Then they choose their lead. Still you complain that that leader is this and that. If all these political parties don't speak your language, form your own. This is a free country in terms of forming political parties. The constitution allows that. You just need to, get on with it and all that. If all of them, they don't speak your language. But we just tend to, I think we are just selling out, and the people whom they've been mandated by that 48% to lead, they are doing that because our current government is in power because people put them there, even though the majority of the country did not. But there are certain people which put them there, and they are doing what they are supposed to do. So I think, as a country as a whole, we really need to wake up. The danger about this crossroad is that, should we go right, we might find ourselves at the condition and the situation of the 1976. Not exactly the same, but more or less. Because what is currently happening, especially amongst our young people in the townships, just to say, they really don't know themselves. They are currently identifying themselves based on the challenges which are being imposed on them. Your HIV/AIDS epidemic, your high level of unemployment, crime, and the likes of poverty. And then apparently these youth, they are too materialistic. They are not interested in politics. And their reasons are justified, because if you look at in the case of materialistic, when apartheid was dismantled in 1994, the people whom were classified as the freedom fighters, they started living in the suburbs. They basically moved from the township to the suburbs. The very same places where where their operation was, their oppressor was living. They started driving luxury cars. They started wearing designer labels. And now, within these young people's mind, those people were still role models. When they see them driving X5 and all those, wearing designer, they still wish to get those kind of things. But unfortunately, they don't have the means in terms of the finances. But now then what they do, they resort to crime. And then they also to violence. A typical example is every year at our university level, we know there's going to be a protest. And now the manner in which this protest happens, it is the very same way which apartheid was dismantled. And then, just to comment, there was at Wits University, there was a 1 million campaign where the SRC decided to, instead of protesting, banning things and singing revolutionary songs, they started raising money for their fellow in order to get the registration and all that. But unfortunately, the majority, they still think in order to get this government of ours, which it is not listening, it is restored, it is to go to violence, because apartheid in its oppressive system was dismantled through protest and all these other things which they still think it is valid today. So what we need currently, just to revive the morals and the ethical whatever in our young people. We just need, if I have to put this in the biblical context, we are currently searching for our Moses, the generation of, just to say, of Mandela took us out of bondage. But now, we are not where we're supposed to be. We are currently looking for a generation which is going to take us to the promised land. Unfortunately, the current generation which is currently leading, it is not. And it is not even leading a foundation for the next generation of leaders to take us forward. Hence, the youth, they are no longer interested in politics because they see them, the youth of 1976, it was an honor to be a comrade because they knew what they were fighting for. They were fighting as a collective for one thing, dismantle apartheid. But then our current youth, they see this, the very same people whom were fighting in 1976 have occupied, and they are proceeding with what the apartheid system was doing. And then they ask myself, why must I get involved in this whole thing? And then they become vulnerable to that. Anyone who comes and speaks their language, they generally identify with that person, and then they associate themselves with that. Hence, without just going too much into the politics of it, hence the EFF managed to get the seats which it got to get itself into parliament. It is because it identified with the youth. Hence, the majority of its constituency are young people. And then I think the current leadership, it does not have a program in action to fully socialize our young people into better adulthood, into better adult, let's say, so that the next generation of leaders can be a better one which can take us forward. I just think, okay, we are free. We can move around. Also that it has got its limitation because you need the finances, the cars and all those kind of things, of which the majority of young people don't have. So it's just free to vote. And then that's it. Tomorrow, the very same people who were promising things, heaven and earth and all that, after you voted them into power, they move into the suburbs and all that, and they forgot you. 5 years down the line, they come. Hence, the youth, they just realize they don't have a future with the current system.
Okay, my viewpoint is that, like it has been said, that the youth of 76, they all had a common goal, and the goal was to abolish the language which was Afrikaans, which was forced onto them. But the youth of today, yes, we do have education, but black people are still not afforded the same opportunities as our white counterparts. For an example, yes, we are allowed into Model C schools. However, for a majority of a black child to get into that school, they have to travel from Soweto. That means waking up at 4:30, going to get in a bus or going to get on the train. By the time they get to school, they're already tired. So the knowledge, yes, they're going to get their knowledge as white people as well, but their knowledge is not going to go in as a white child who woke up at 7 o'clock and go to school at 8 o'clock. There's a barrier between the thing. And as well as not forgetting the children that are in the rural areas, they have not been afforded the same resources. You go into an Model C school or you go into a private school, they have your iPads, they have your computers, they can just get textbooks just like that. But at home in the rural areas, they're still using textbooks that were used, I don't know, in what, when the curriculum was still OBE. And not forgetting the government. I mean, they failed our education as well. I mean, my parents and people that are older than me that I know, they tell you that, you know what, apartheid government might have been bad. But the fact is, although they were learning in Afrikaans, the level of education was way higher than the level of education now. you look at there was an OBE, and then there was NCS, and then there was this, and then there was that, which goes to show, we see, our government is failing. They do not know how to take the black child who was previously disadvantaged and give him tools to develop his cognitive so that he can actually just, because we're promoting our children, we say no, 40% is enough to pass, but that's then disabling our youth to say, you know what, we can reach for higher heights. They're just aiming for that 40% and just say, aha, we passed, moving on to the next grade. But that is not benefiting us, because yes, we're doing it high school, fine, they pass metric with that 40%. Come university, our children don't know how to structure essays, they do not know how to reference, they do not know how to code, they do not even know simple things like similes and nouns, because the teachers that are within the system themselves do not know how to educate and enlighten a black child. So yes, we do have the freedom to be taught and be in the same classes as white people, but we still very much less advantaged, and we still got very far to go before we can actually say yes, we're the same. We have reached equilibrium, and I doubt it's anytime soon. So what they fought for is not what is happening right now.